Boy calls 911 and says I'm hungry. Officer goes to his house and… Isaiah McGregor was a smart little 5-year-old boy who loved to play with his toys and stood out for his great intelligence despite his young age, even making people think that he might be a case of a gifted child. However, his mother assured that this was simply not the case and her son was simply faster than the rest. Little McGregor spent most of his life with his grandmother, 76-year-old Melanie Monroe, as his mother, a 40-year-old single mother, spent her life on an airplane attending to her business. The lack of a stable parental reference and having an absent mother made the child grow up without clear behavioral guidelines and had too much freedom to do and undo as he pleased. But as if this weren't enough, Isaiah was not exactly an obedient child nor easy to handle, which didn't make him a bad child because he was very good-natured and had never done anything wrong, but simply a naughty child who needed a good dose of discipline. And it is precisely because of the lack of discipline of little Isaiah and his strange ability to do things that other children his age wouldn't do that today we're telling you this story. A story whose main mission is to make us see the problems from a more optimistic point of view, to understand that in life things aren't always black and white and that there are many ways to face a problem to solve it. Our story begins on a quiet Sunday morning when, as usual, Isaiah was spending the day with his grandmother Mel while his mother was flying over some major city in search of a successful new business. It was December and it was the winter holidays, the streets were frozen and the snow covered the roofs and sidewalks of the entire city of Michigan. The children had gone out like crazy to enjoy the snow with their parents, siblings, and grandparents, all but one. Isaiah McGregor loved to play in the snow like any 5-year-old, but his grandmother was old and hated the cold. The boy was a genius, creating snowmen and giving them hilarious names. The last one he made was called Ferdinando in honor of a character from his favorite story. However, his grandmother that Sunday was especially ill. She'd been suffering from Parkinson's for a little over a year and couldn't accompany him outside to play in the snow, much less let him leave alone without supervision. So instead of spending Sunday playing in the snow and drinking hot chocolate with sugar clouds, McGregor had to settle for watching cartoons while indulging in crunchy cereal and milk. "Grandma, can we go to the park? It's full of snow and all the kids from the neighborhood will be making some giant snowmen. Please, can we go?" The little boy begged his grandmother as he shoved a big spoonful of cereal into his mouth. "I'm sorry, Isaiah. Today your grandmother's feeling especially old. It's too cold and my rusty bones are hurting. Sorry, honey. You'll have to wait until next week and go with your mother as she'd planned," Grandma told him tenderly, trying to keep the boy from getting too angry. The boy's face went from excitement to disappointment in seconds. "So we're not going outside all day? But it's Sunday, Grandma. All the kids are playing in the snow and eating hot chocolate. That's unfair." The child was indignant, banging the table and getting up without finishing breakfast. "I'm sorry, honey. I know you're angry, but I don't want to argue. I'm feeling pretty bad and it's unthinkable for me to spend the day in the snow or standing in long lines at a crowded mall. You'll have to wait until next week," Mrs. Mel concluded firmly as she gathered everything up. Isaiah realized he had no chance of convincing his grandmother to go out that day, so he didn't bring up the subject again and just stayed by her side as he watched his favorite cartoons. After the initial argument at breakfast, everything settled down and the rest of the morning passed normally. However, as lunchtime approached, Isaiah noticed that his grandmother had fallen fast asleep, and he was sorry to wake her up. The medication she was taking for the pain was very strong, and the old lady often fell asleep. Unfortunately, the woman slept so deeply that it would be several hours before she woke up, and little Isaiah was left without lunch or dinner until then. And that day was to be no different. It was almost 3 in the afternoon and McGregor was hungry. As he watched his grandmother sleeping soundly, the 5-year-old had a brilliant idea: pick up his grandmother's phone and order groceries. Isaiah, like most American kids his age, was a fast food lover, and his favorite fast food restaurant was McDonald's. "I could pick up Grandma's phone and order food delivery. Then all I'd have to do is take some money out of her wallet and that's it. I'm sure she won't even notice," the boy said to himself while planning how to get the food without his grandmother noticing. And the truth is, his plan was perfect, except for one small detail. His grandmother's phone was in airplane mode and the boy, despite his intelligence and acumen with the use of new technology, still didn't know how to get the phone back on the line. But the phone was still capable of calling 911 and the boy knew it. Isaiah remembered that a few months earlier, his mother had taught him how to make emergency calls just in case something happened to his or his grandmother someday and he had no one he could call for help. "If I call 911 and tell them I'm a little boy who's starving, they'll surely help me. No one could refuse to help a child," the boy thought as he dialed the emergency number. He waited patiently for an operator to be available, and as soon as someone answered, the child was quick to explain his situation and make his peculiar plea for help. In the audio of the call, Isaiah asked very sadly, "Good afternoon, sir. My name's Isaiah McGregor. I'm 5 years old and I'm hungry, very hungry. Would you be so kind as to bring me a McDonald's children's menu? It would be nice and it would make my day." To which the operator replied, very surprised, "I'm sorry?" And the child repeated his request. "I'm asking for food, sir. This is the emergency number, right?" "Well, this is a big emergency. I'm very hungry and my grandmother doesn't seem to be waking up," answered Isaiah, very determined to get what he had set out to do. The operator was startled to hear the boy say his grandmother wasn't waking up, so he hurried to ask him if something bad had happened. "Your grandmother won't wake up. Are you alone with her? Have you checked if she's still breathing? How old is she?" asked the frightened operator, doing his job correctly despite the tone in which the child spoke to him. Isaiah quickly realized his mistake and hurried to clarify the matter and proceed with the request he cared so much about and which was beginning to make him impatient. "My grandmother's perfectly fine. I meant she was taking a long nap. You know, old people sleep a lot. We're fine, don't worry, sir. But can you bring me the food I asked for or not?" the boy insisted. The operator, who was annoyed by the child's rude tone, replied coldly, "No, I can't bring you McDonald's, and please call this number only in an emergency, okay? Our work is serious and we can't be catering to kids who feel like eating French fries. Goodbye," hung up the phone. We get a lot of people who let their kids play with their cell phones, and a lot of them are turned off and the parents don't realize they can still call 911. Operator Clark Kuberski, the one the boy spoke to during his 911 call, told WZZM, the radio outlet that decided to broadcast Isaiah's story. "What a pity, I almost had him convinced," McGregor lamented after the call was cut off. After his failure to call 911, Isaiah decided to leave it alone and continue watching TV without bothering his grandmother. What the boy couldn't have imagined was his phone call would end up reaching the ears of a police officer. After cutting off the call with the child, Officer Clark decided to do his duty and contacted Wyoming, Michigan police officer Dan Patterson. The officer saw fit to report that there was a 5-year-old boy named Isaiah making calls to 911 for food and without any adult supervision. When he received the call from the 911 operator, Patterson was doing his surveillance patrol near Isaiah's house, so he decided to pay him a visit to make sure everything was okay. After all, it wasn't very normal for a 5-year-old to call the emergency number on his own and say his grandmother wasn't waking up, so it was best to take a look. However, while driving, he decided to stop by McDonald's to surprise the boy with a Super Kids menu. "I was laughing to myself. A 5-year-old boy calls dispatch and asks for McDonald's," Patterson explains, amused to the aforementioned media outlet. "I thought, hey, I'm gonna walk past McDonald's on the way and I might as well buy him something. Let's see the look on his face when he sees me coming," the officer continued. When he got to the McGregor's house, there seemed to be no one in it. He thought the boy shouldn't open the door to strangers, which was fine with him, so he decided to go around the house to try and knock on the boy's window. When Isaiah saw him through the glass, he was speechless. He didn't know whether to hide or wake his grandmother to confess what he'd done. However, he did neither and plucked up his courage, walked over to the window and accosted the policeman who was waving at him from outside with a friendly gesture. "Hi, I know I shouldn't call 911 to say I'm hungry. I won't do it anymore, really. My grandmother's gonna be very angry. Can you please leave?" Isaiah said to the very worried policeman. The last thing he wanted was for his mother or grandmother to know that he was sneaking calls while they were sleeping. Officer Patterson couldn't help but burst out laughing when he saw the little boy's concern. He decided not to make him suffer anymore and showed him the bag of food from McDonald's. Isaiah's face lit up. "Is it for me?" He took the bag and looked inside. "That's right, kid. I'm Police Officer Patterson, and you must be the famous Isaiah, is that right?" Patterson asked. "That's me. Nice to meet you, sir. Sorry for my attitude before. It's just I thought you were coming to take me to jail," confessed the little one, embarrassed. "To get in jail for ordering fries at 911? Of course not. That doesn't mean that what you've done is okay, and you should think about it. 911 is the number that a person calls in case of a real emergency, fire, a car accident, a robbery, but never for what you tried to do. You're very young, and I understand this is still difficult for you, but the sooner someone explains it to you, the better," the officer explained calmly while the boy listened to him very carefully. "I understand, sir. I'll never do it again. My grandmother takes a very strong medication that makes her sleepy, and sometimes she doesn't wake up for meals. It's not her fault. Please don't be angry with her. I know I should have waited for her to wake up, but I was so hungry I couldn't wait and sought to help in my own way." "But then why'd you buy me the food I ordered?" Isaiah asked. "I just thought it was fun. What you did is wrong, but deep down I think it's very funny. I think there are many ways to approach things, and this time I think that bringing you some delicious fries and a burger are the best way to make you understand that you haven't done the right thing. That's all, little kid," Patterson concluded, smiling at him and taking a handful of potatoes from the bag. After his initial talk with the child, Patterson also wanted to have a conversation with the grandmother, alerting her to the dangers of taking medication while caring for a child and asking her to please inform the child's mother of the facts and suggest an alternative way to care for her child while she's away. Officer Patterson made sure to turn the unexpected visit into a learning lesson for the naughty little Isaiah. While the little boy sure learned his lesson, he said that seeing a police officer bring him McDonald's was kind of fun despite the initial scare he got when he saw him nibbling at his window. Did you like this touching and surprising story? If so, we invite you to leave us a comment expressing your opinion. If you want to continue enjoying inspiring stories like this one, subscribe to our channel or check out the other videos shown at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for your cooperation.